What if you woke up during a zombie apocalypse? You don't hear screaming at first. You hear silence, and somehow that's worse. The world outside your window looks the same. Same street, same cars, same gray morning sky. But something is wrong. You feel it before you see it. That deep animal pull in your gut that says, do not open that door. You open it anyway. Day one of a zombie apocalypse wouldn't look like a movie. There would be no dramatic announcement, no president on every screen, no organized evacuation with soldiers pointing you towards safety. It would start with rumors, a news ticker on a muted television, someone's phone going off in another room, hospitals overwhelmed, internet slowing down, then going quiet entirely. The first thing most people would do is exactly the wrong thing. They'd go outside. They'd try to find answers. They'd drive toward the noise instead of away from it. And that decision, that single, completely human decision,
would kill more people in the first 72 hours than the infection itself. Because here's the brutal reality. The undead are not your greatest threat in the beginning. Other people are. The collapse of civilization. Picture a city of 3 million people the moment panic sets in. Gas stations with lines wrapping around the block. Grocery stores stripped clean in under 4 hours. Pharmacies, hardware stores, sporting goods, gone. People aren't just buying supplies, they're hoarding. They're fighting. A man is killed over a bag of rice in a parking lot in broad daylight, and nobody calls the police because the police aren't coming. The thin layer of civilization that holds human beings together is not laws. It's not government. It's not morality. It's the belief that tomorrow will come. The moment that belief disappears, everything disappears with it. Within 48 hours, most city centers would be unrecognizable. Now, let's talk about the infected. They're not fast. That's the first thing survivors would notice and immediately underestimate. A single walker shuffling down an empty road
looks almost pathetic, manageable, almost not real. That false sense of security has a body count because they don't stop, they don't sleep, they don't eat, they don't get tired or cold or discouraged. They are driven by one thing only: sound and movement. And a city full of panicking humans is a dinner bell that never stops ringing. The real danger isn't one zombie, it's the herd. Dozens become hundreds, hundreds become thousands, moving together through streets like a slow, unstoppable tide. Quiet, except for the dragging of feet, and a sound survivors would later describe as the worst sound they'd ever heard. A low, hollow moan that seems to come from everywhere at once. By the end of the first week, the city would be lost. The psychology of survival. The survivors who make it are not necessarily the strongest. They're not the most armed or the most prepared. The ones who survive the first month tend to share one quality: the ability to detach, to look at the world as it is, not as it was. The woman who leaves her injured neighbor behind because staying means dying. The man who burns down his own house to stop the infected from using it as a landmark. The teenager who stops crying, not because the grief is gone, because grief has become a luxury they cannot afford. Emotions don't disappear in a survival situation. They go underground. They compress.
And what they become under that pressure is something most of us have never had to meet inside ourselves. But you would meet it if you were there. You would meet it. The dead cities. After 30 days, the cities become something else entirely. Concrete canyons, stripped of sound and color. Traffic lights still cycling green, yellow, red for intersections nobody uses. Storefronts with their windows broken inward. Shelves long since emptied. Floors covered in a layer of paper and broken glass. And the particular silence of places that used to be loud. Water stops running around the 6-week mark in most places. Power grids fail when the workers who maintain them are gone. In the dark, no running water and no heat, even the safest building becomes a trap. The night becomes the most dangerous time. In darkness, your advantages disappear. You can't see them coming. Every sound becomes a threat. Every shadow becomes something that might be moving. Survivors quickly learn to stop using light, to sleep in shifts, to never, ever make noise after sundown. Sleep deprivation becomes its own kind of slow death. Your mind starts playing tricks. You hear things, see shapes in corners,
Begin to wonder if the person sleeping next to you is running a fever. Paranoia isn't a weakness in this world. It's a tool, but it's a tool that turns on its user.
The fall of governments. Governments don't fall all at once. They fracture. In the first weeks, there would be emergency broadcasts, designated safe zones, military cordons around major population centers, the appearance of order. But safe zones require supply chains, and supply chains require workers. And workers are either dead, infected, or running. The military, stretched thin, starts making impossible decisions. Who gets resources? Who gets abandoned? And the moment civilians realize the government is making those choices, the moment they understand that they are not on the protected list, the last trust evaporates. Some soldiers stay at their posts. Others go home to their families. History won't judge them. History at that point is a concept that no longer has anyone to write it. By month 3, there is no country. There are only territories.
Tribal communities. Humans are tribal by design. It took about 10,000 years of civilization to temporarily convince ourselves otherwise. It takes about 90 days without it to go back. Small groups form around resources. A farm, a warehouse, a defensible building on high ground. These groups develop rules fast, because without rules, groups fall apart. The rules are simple and brutal. You work, you eat. You put the group at risk, you leave. You get bitten, you don't come back inside. Leadership in these groups rarely goes to who you'd expect. The former office manager with no survival skills, but an instinct for keeping people calm, becomes more valuable than the ex-soldier who can't stop making unilateral decisions. Cooperation, it turns out, is a survival skill. It always was. We just forgot. Inside these small communities, something strange and deeply human begins to happen. People start to rebuild rituals. Meals become important. Birthdays get remembered. Someone plays guitar. Someone else starts keeping a journal. Not because these things are practical, but because humans cannot exist without meaning, without narrative, without the feeling that they are part of a story that matters. But the paranoia never leaves, because every new person who appears at the perimeter represents two things simultaneously.
A potential resource and a potential threat. And you can never fully know which one they are. You watch them. You test them. You look for signs of infection, yes, but also signs of something harder to see. Desperation. Violence. The look in someone's eyes that tells you they've already crossed lines you haven't reached yet. That look becomes recognizable, because eventually, most people have it. Years later. Years pass. A child born 2 years into the collapse has never known a supermarket, has never seen a functioning city, has grown up understanding in their bones that the world is dangerous and resources are finite, and trust is something you extend slowly, with great care, and sometimes take back with great speed. That child is not traumatized by this understanding. To them, it is simply reality. That child is a different kind of human. Not worse, not better. Different. Harder in some ways. More present in others. Less focused on abstract futures and entirely focused on this moment, this day, this fire that needs to stay lit.
The communities that survive years in this world develop something remarkable. Genuine interdependence. Not the polite social contract of the old world, but deep, biological, necessary connection. You know everyone's strengths. You know everyone's limits. You know who to wake up in a crisis and who to keep calm.
The loneliness of the early months, that crushing, almost unbearable loneliness of a world suddenly emptied, transforms into something that the old world, with all its billions of people, rarely managed to produce. Real belonging, the disturbing conclusion. But here's what keeps the survivors awake at night, even years later. Not the dead outside the walls. They've learned to manage the dead. They've learned the patterns, the sounds, the movement, the way a herd builds and dissipates. They've made peace in their strange way with the infected. They almost understand them.
What they cannot make peace with is what they remember about themselves. The decisions, the faces of people they left behind. The moment they realized they were capable of something they can never unname. The version of themselves that emerged from the first months. Practical, cold, efficient, surviving. Never fully goes away. It sits behind the eyes. It waits. And sometimes, in quiet moments, watching children who have never known the old world play in the shadow of collapsed buildings. Sometimes the survivors wonder which version of humanity is the real one. The one that built the cities, or the one that learned to live without them. The answer, if there is one, is the kind of thought you push back down quickly. Because some truths, in a world like this, are luxuries you cannot afford. Just like grief. Just like sleep. Just like the feeling that everything is going to be okay.
You push it down. You go back to watching the perimeter. You listen for that sound. That low, hollow, endless moan in the dark. And you stay ready. Because in this world, the dead never stop moving. And neither can you.